From your phone's battery life to the deals at the grocery store, they are literally everywhere. I'm talking, of course, about percentages. They kind of shape how we see the world, but what do they really mean? Well, today we're going to break it all down.
All right, let's kick things off with a puzzle that I guarantee you've faced before. You're out and about, maybe grabbing a coffee, and you see a sign for a deal. But is it actually a good deal? The secret to figuring that out, it all comes down to understanding the language of percentages. Okay, so let's get specific. You're at the counter, you're about to buy your favorite $5 coffee, and you spot two different promotions. So which one do you pick? Which one saves you more money? It seems like a simple question, right? But this is a perfect example of where speaking percentage gives you a huge advantage in the real world. So here are your choices. On one hand, you've got a 20% discount. On the other, a straight dollar off. Now, the dollar off is easy, right? You know exactly what you're getting. But that 20%, that takes a little bit of translation, doesn't it? And this is exactly why getting comfortable with percentages is so important. They're basically the ultimate language for comparing things. All right, to really get a handle on this, we need to go back to basics. And believe it or not, the secret to understanding percentages, well, it's been hiding in the name this whole time. Seriously, once I show you, you'll never be able to unsee it. And boom, there it is. That's the whole secret. Percent comes from the Latin phrase percentum, which literally just means for every 100. That's it. So from this moment on, whenever you see that little percent sign, all you have to do is think, how many for every 100? It's that simple. And a picture really is worth 1,000 words here. Look at this chart. If you imagine that the whole donut is 100 pieces, then that highlighted slice, that's 25 of those pieces. All of a sudden, 25% stops being this abstract math concept and becomes something you can actually see. It's 25 parts of a whole 100. It helps to think of percentages as just one tool in a bigger toolkit. They're all for describing a piece of something bigger. In fact, there are 3 main ways to say the exact same thing. Let's check them out. First up, you've got the good old fraction. 3/4. 3 pieces out of a total of 4. Super common, right? We've all seen this one. Or you could write it out as a decimal, 0.75. Now I know it looks totally different. Different symbols, different format, but just hang on to that thought for a second. And last but not least, you can say it using the tool we're talking about today, 75%. Okay, now here's the magic trick. Those last 3 things we just saw, 3/4, 0.75, and 75%, they might look like they're written in 3 different languages, but they are all telling you the exact same thing. That is so important to remember. They're just different ways to say the same amount. Okay, so we've got the theory down. Now for the fun part. Let's go out into the wild and see where these percentages are hiding in plain sight. And I promise you, once you start looking for them, you are going to see them everywhere. I mean, just turn on the news. Percentages are king. Think about an election, for example. Instead of trying to wrap your head around millions and millions of individual votes, we get this super clear picture, 52% to 48%. It takes this huge, complicated pile of data and just simplifies it instantly. Oh, and here's one that gives us all a little jolt of panic. That 15% low battery warning. It's not telling you how many minutes are left, is it? Nope, but it's giving you a piece of information that everybody on the planet understands. You've got 15 parts out of 100 left. In other words, find a charger and find one fast. Okay, let's get super practical for a second. I'm going to give you a mental math trick for calculating a 20% tip. It's so easy. Just look at your bill and move the decimal point 1 spot to the left. Boom, that's 10%. Now all you got to do is double that number and there you have it. You just figured out a 20% tip right in your head. No calculator needed. And of course, if you look at the world of business and finance, wow, percentages are basically the only language they speak. You'll hear things like a 7% increase in profits. That tells investors how much a company is growing. But it also teaches us to ask smarter questions, right? Because a 7% increase on $1 million is way different than 7% on $1,000. It's all about measuring change, but also understanding what you're measuring it against. So you see, getting a handle on percentages is so much more than just a math skill. It's kind of like getting a universal translator for the river of data and information that we're all swimming in every single day. So why does any of this really matter? Well, it's because percentages give us a level playing field. They let us compare apples to oranges. They take these giant, messy numbers and shrink them down to something our brains can actually understand. And at the end of the day, that means you get to make smarter, more confident decisions. Which, hey, brings us right back to where we started. Our coffee puzzle. Remember that? A 20% discount versus a $1 discount? Well, now we can solve it. 10% of our $5 coffee is 50 cents. So you double that to get 20%. And what do you have? $1. They were the exact same deal. See? Knowing how to do that quick mental translation lets you see the real value right there on the spot. So I'll leave you with this thought. You now have the key to a super powerful language, one that's used to describe pretty much everything in our world. So my question to you is, now that you speak the language of percentages, what are you going to start to see a little more clearly? Thanks for diving into this with me.